Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday. It is not one of our typical chat nights, but tonight we are here to celebrate the life of one of the, I'm going to say, greatest performers of our generation. As all of you know, today was a very sad day. We lost a great musician, a great entertainer, a genius in the music industry. Tonight, oh, hang on, I've got stuff that's making noise here all the way around. I've got to shut. Ladies and gentlemen, where is it? It is not one of our typical chat nights, but tonight unfortunately, I've got too many windows open here, guys. But what we're gonna be doing tonight is I've got some guests with us this evening. I've got Mike Walter, who is a huge Prince fan in the DJ industry. A lot of you know that he works more Prince into a presentation than you can shake a stick at. And he's just experienced a lot of different things with performances and concerts and different things. So we wanted Mike to come in and talk a little bit because, again, we know what a huge fan he is. And then we have Michael Holtz. Michael has had the privilege of performing for many of Prince's after parties and his weekend events out at Paisley Park. So I wanted to see if we could get him. And guys, thank you for joining us tonight. This is going to be great.
Thank you, Rob.
And Jeremy Breck is here tonight because I'm going to be managing the chat, and hopefully he's going to follow the conversation and help to kind of ask questions and such that those who don't know Prince as well as you two do, that he can ask those clarifying questions of you guys, because Prince was a very layered person. And those of us who are casual fans know a little bit, but you guys know a lot more. So the guys, let's kind of jump into it. Mike, you were asking Michael some questions a little bit. Let's kind of start from that point and pick it up from there as you guys were chatting about that.
Well, it amazes me, Michael, that you not only got to spin at Paisley Park, but you actually met Prince. So why don't we start there, man? Share some stories with us.
Yeah, I DJ'd out there for about two years, basically. April 2014 was the first time I DJ'd out there, and I actually did a live cast with John here as well regarding that, and getting the chance to live cast with John here as well. Be picked and called to go out to Paisley Park and DJ for these shows, and it all had started with. Are we getting some feedback there?
There we go. Go ahead.
Okay, and it all had started with a call at, of course, 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, can you come out this weekend and DJ at Paisley Park? Prince is starting to have these parties, and we want to try you out. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be, the adrenaline just kicked in. It's going to be like a one and done type thing. I don't know. I just didn't know what to expect going out there for my first time. And I remember the first time that I was out there, he actually played, and then he had another artist. Her name was Candace Springs. So, one of the rules I have is, no dead air. There should be music going on at all times, whether it's live or recorded. And Prince was walking off the stage as he told people that Candace was going to start playing next door in the smaller sound studio. And he was walking off stage, and I remember just thinking, like, there's dead air. I got to cut into music. So I cut into music. And all of a sudden, he comes back on his mic. He goes, I ain't done yet. And he goes into Kiss. And I was like, okay, every, DJ's nightmare is like, okay, I might as well just pack up right now. I'm fired. I'm not going to come back. And then I see him coming down as his band's playing some walkout music for Candace to start playing. And he comes up to me, and I'm like, okay, here we go. This is going to be it. And he says to me, he goes, once Candace starts playing, you can stop. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be my first interaction with Prince. How do I break the ice here, And I just turned to him, I said, you got me on that Kiss thing. And, of course, in Prince-like fashion, he kind of gives that smile, that shrug, and he goes, I know, and walked away. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, am I good? And then later on that night, he came back up to me. He goes, all right, I'm going to see what you got. He goes, I'm going to be playing some new cuts off my new album. And I want you to hear them and then fill them in with some old school cuts that you think would go with them. So watch me when I give you the cue. So he was kind of down next to me on another soundboard, and then he'd play the cut, and then he'd point over to me, and I was thinking, okay, yep, this fits, this one fits. So I, throw in Shaka Khan, I Feel For You, or something like that. And he's like, oh, okay. And he was with his assistant, and they were kind of going back and forth, like, oh, let's see what he's got here. So then they threw another new track on, and he was just sitting back, and then all of a sudden he cues over to me, and I throw another track on. He's like, all right, you know. And then after that, he gave me the thumbs up, and you know, like everyone says, in a puff of purple smoke or whatever, he was gone. But throughout those times and that experience, you know, I never sat down and just had a, you know, one-on-one conversation with Prince that lasted hours or whatnot. They were always, you know, just, you know, those 30-minute, or not 30-minute, but, you know, maybe it's like 10 seconds here, or maybe it's a minute or 2 minutes there. And within those interactions, you could tell that we connected. And it seemed like every time that I would be out there, he'd have a new challenge for me that I just would not even have thought about, you know. And one of those challenges was, we were kind of sitting around one time before the party started, because he was checking out some audio. Well, he had come up to the booth, and I actually just had a controller. I didn't have turntables at that time. I just had a controller that I was using. So he came up and he wanted to check my sound. And all I remember was him saying is, oh, controller, huh? I said, yeah. You ever try vinyl turntables? I'm like, no, you know, I really haven't. And he just kind of said that, and he walked away. And I'm like, is this a challenge? You know? And of course, as I can move this was the result of that challenge.
Wow.
that I picked up, because I'm like, okay. And then he saw I brought it up to Paisley Park, and it just not too long ago that I got it. And I remember him walking by, and he kind of stopped, and he looked, and he just kind of gave me the nod. And I'm like, okay. So he liked the new digs. And then he had a celebration party for the Minnesota Lynx when they won the championship. And it was a private party, and I was out there DJing. And normally with all these shows, I mean, when he takes over, I'm pretty much done, and I can myself sit back and enjoy the show. Well, as I'm enjoying the show, Prince goes, hey, DJ, drop some scratches on the beat. And I'm just like, okay, here we go. You know, I'm in my panic mode, scrambling. Okay, yeah, here's some good scratches. And I start putting it down. And he's like, all right, DJ, all right, yeah, come get it. I'm like, okay, am I doing this right? You know? And I talked to some of the other band members after that. And so they're like, oh, how did tonight go? And I'm like, yeah, I never thought I was going to be part of the band tonight. And they're like, that's how it all starts. You never know. You know, you never know when your time's going to come. And then the last, one of the last conversations he had, my daughter, I recorded a video of my daughter singing one of his songs, and he retweeted it on his Twitter. And as I'm out there, he came out, and he was just kind of giving me some direction on where to put the DJ booth and everything, and he was helping me. And as he was helping me, I said, hey, Prince, you know, I said, what did you think about my daughter's new remix on your cut? And he goes, oh, the one that, you know, we came to shut this down, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, and he just starts cracking up. He's like, that was hilarious. And those were the moments that I had with him. And for me, it's kind of like, that's all I needed, you know? And my last moment, my experience that I had was out in January when he had premiered the piano and microphone performances. And then the last night was more of an international dance party, because there were so many people around the world that were there. And I came out, he asked me to come out and DJ. And then I remember them saying, okay, one point in the evening, Prince is going to come out, and he's going to be on the other side of the room, and he's going to be on his turntables, and he's going to do his thing. So when he does his thing, just, you know, step back, you know, let him do his thing. And then when he's done, you know, you go about doing your thing. So, of course, you know, I'm just sitting there enjoying the show, letting him do his thing. And all of a sudden I hear, hey, DJ, what do you got over there? Everybody's over here. What do you got over there on the other side of the room? And I'm like, oh, no. So I'm going and I put up the cut. I start looping the beginning of Cool by the Time, because I know that's one of his good songs. So he was playing he was kind of looping over his beats and then putting in some different sound effects. So I'm like, well, I'll loop cool and see how that goes. And all of a sudden, he's like, DJ, you got something over there? Well, let's see what you got. And then he was controlling the volume, and then he brought it up, and then I was scratching a little bit over the top of cool, and he goes, nah, that's okay. And then he goes, someone else would say, man, what a jerk. What was he doing to you? And I'm like, no, that's just Prince. I mean, that was him being funny, playing around, because, of course, I'm not going to steal the limelight from Prince when he comes up. That's his thing. So he kept doing that to me the whole night, and I couldn't really see too much, but I could see he was kind of looking, and he had that grin on his face. I'm like, yeah, I know what he's doing right now. He's just totally playing with me.
You were the Washington Generals to his Harlem Globetrotters.
Right.
As you're telling the story about his interaction with you, I was reminded of a line. I remember hearing Paul Simon say once that he doesn't get along with anybody except musicians. He can only talk to musicians. And I think Prince was probably very similar. I think if you could talk the music, the language of music, then you could get along with him. But if not, his social interactions were probably not very smooth, because that was the only language he really spoke. And it sounds like when you and he connected on that level, like you and your daughter's song, then he could actually have an interaction. Right.
Yeah. And then there was one night that I was done. I was just packing up, and Prince is he likes to drive his or pedal his little bike inside the studio. And all of a sudden, here comes up Prince and his bike, and he's like, "Thanks for coming out tonight." And I'm like, "Hey, anytime, Prince." And then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Hey, what kind of bike is that, Prince? Is that a track, or is that, what is it, a hybrid? What do you usually do?" And so we then started having a little conversation about the type of bike that he uses, and he usually takes it around the lake that's just right out in front of Paisley Park, and he'll bike around there and everything. So it's like, okay, now I just had a just off the wall conversation with Prince about a bike.
His bike.
You're right. But I think he really appreciated that, rather than just someone asking him all the other questions that everyone probably asks him every day.
Right.
Where he appreciated and he trusted in me, and that was one of the big things about Prince and being out there is like, if he doesn't trust you, or if you do him wrong, you're done. And that's one of the things I always highly respected about it, because I'd get people to say, "Oh, let me know when a party happens or what." I'm like, I really can't until I'm able to let you know when it's public. So.
Right.
One of the things that I kind of want to use as a transition, Michael, you talked about how he would get on turntables, and I've talked to Mr. Walter, I don't know how many times, about his experience of going to those concerts. And one of the things that I found fascinating, and I think a lot of people would find fascinating, is Prince is an amazing guitarist, but on turntables, you never would have known, because he doesn't do that on his album, or it doesn't show. But I mean, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience of seeing him live doing his turntable routine?
Yeah, there really wasn't an instrument that he couldn't play. I mean, he wasn't great with horn instruments, but I mean, in any band he ever put together, he was the best drummer, he was the best bassist, he was the best guitarist. And a lot of his, especially the last couple of years when he would play, he would, a lot of times for his encore, he would come out and, like Michael was just saying, he would set up a loop, and then he would scratch, and then he would play instruments over all that. And it was amazing to see. As a DJ, I appreciated the fact that he was actually scratching and manipulating his pre-recorded versions of songs, which is basically what we do for a living. So it was kind of incredible to see it, which is why, Michael, he probably appreciated what he saw you doing, because he knew that was not just playing music back, but it was actually a form of artistry and musicianship,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's and like you said, Mike. Yeah, definitely. He's one of the things that he talked about Saturday when we saw him at Paisley Park is he showed off his new toys. He had a new piano that was given to him by Yamaha, and then a new gold and purple guitar. And he kind of, with Prince, he always kind of gives you a little bit of a lesson. And one thing that really hit home to me was that he was like, he took the guitar out and he's like, y'all probably want me to play it, right? And we're all like, yeah, play it. And he's like, and he put it back in the case. He goes, I can't touch it right now because I'm focused on the piano. And he talked about his time with when he was playing with Tamar Davis, who was on The Voice right now. He was only playing with her as just a guitar. And he had talked about how much he had learned and crafted more of his guitar skills by just doing that. And where he said, I'm only focused on the piano right now. I'm not touching the guitar because this is where I want to build up more of my skills on the piano.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have such regret that I didn't see that show. I was convinced he was going to bring that show to the Big Apple. I had the opportunity. I was invited by Jeremy Jones to go down to Atlanta last week.
Oh.
And I just said, what's the point? He's going to bring it to New York. He's never toured the States and not come to New York.
Right.
So, and he was doing this one-off thing where every week or so he would just announce a date here and a date there. And I was convinced he'll bring it. And and I'll always regret that. I've heard the audio of some of those concerts and they sound amazing. And I've seen him do that live a lot of times for his encores. He would come out and just sit at the piano. My wife and I just went to see him a couple years ago, and for an encore, he just came out to the piano, and we happen to have front row seats right by the piano. So we were literally sitting right there. So I've seen him do that where he just noodles on the piano, plays a little bit, but I never saw an entire show. And I don't want to live with regrets, but I know I'll regret that in a little bit, that I didn't get a chance to see this tour.
Yeah.
Another thing that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Well, yeah, I was just going to kind of allude to that. I mean, it's one thing about experiencing Prince out at his home studio is that you're not going to get Purple Rain or Let's Go Crazy every time. You always got somebody who was trying new things and experimenting, and that's what always kind of blew me away. And he was so open about it.
I was saying on Facebook earlier that I've been to a number of his after shows, and if you're just tuning in, you might not know this, but Prince a lot of times would do a concert, and then a couple hours later he would appear at a club and do an after show and play from 2 a.m. till 5 a.m. And I had a chance to see a few of those through the years, and they were amazing because he didn't have a set list for those. He'd play some covers, he'd play some jams, and a song would go on for 15 minutes, and he'd take it almost like jazz. He would take it in a different direction and then finally bring it back. And those were amazing opportunities to see his after shows. And I imagine his shows in Paisley Park, the celebration shows, were probably very similar. Loose format, no set list. It's, when you tour, when you think about an artist, when they tour and they're doing 100 dates over 4 months, they put together a set list, and the set list might vary from night to night, but for the most part, it's going to be the same. But when you just do a one-off, you kind of make it up as you go along. And that's for a true fan, that's a beautiful thing to be able to see an artist in that kind of creativity,
And Mike, that's actually what I want you to talk about a little bit more, because I remember when you went to 3 of the 5 concerts that he did at Madison Square Garden. Is that correct?
Musicology, he did 3 shows in a row in MSG, and I went to see all 3.
Okay, and when you saw those 3, you kind of talked about, and that shows you how artistic he was. It wasn't that, okay, I'm doing this show and I'm going to do that same show tomorrow.
They were not complete repeats. Every one of those shows, they opened up, I think, with the same 4 or 5 songs, and then the entire middle of the show changed. One of the 3 nights, I forget which one it was, he did a cover of Whole Lotta Love, the Led Zeppelin song. And he tore it up. And then the next night he didn't do that. So that was a typical example. Like, this was just something he felt like doing that night. And then the next night he didn't feel like doing it. And then one of the things he did in the Musicology tour, similar to this piano and microphone, he came out at one point with just the acoustic guitar. And you could tell he was making stuff up as he went along. He would play a little bit. He would do like a chorus of one song and then go into another. And that was just, as a fan, that was just magical to see him. He had such an incredible library of music that he had written. So for somebody like that to just sit on a stool and start playing and go, I can play whatever I want here. And he could. And every night it was different,
Yeah.
I remember also visiting with you too regarding his Super Bowl halftime show. I actually just posted a video on my Facebook page that, you know, the commentators from the NFL Network were talking about, you know, it started to rain, and, you know, I called him, and we were afraid he wasn't going to come out, and he said, "Bring more rain,
bring more rain, make it rain."
And yeah, he had this vision of what he wanted to give, and he didn't want anything to hold him back.
Right.
One of the things that we noticed this last year when they kind of celebrated the halftime show is they had Prince, you know, and they laid that into the song that they were singing, and it just shows you that there was so many iconic moments, and that was such an iconic moment because what Prince does when he's on a stage. I mean, he mesmerized so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you see a list of the greatest halftime shows, they usually put U2 first and the Prince show second. And I think a lot of that has to do with sentimentality. The U2 halftime show was right after 9/11, and they did the 9/11 tribute. If you remember, they brought all. So, I mean, for sentimentality's sake, yeah, I guess you can say U2. But for specifically musicianship, I don't think anyone's ever topped Prince. And the fact that he did Purple Rain in the rain was, I mean, you can't top that. And he tore. I don't want to curse here, John. I know you run a computer. I was almost going to say the S word, but yeah, he tore that up. That solo. Similarly, somebody just posted on Facebook his performance at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when he was inducted, and he was inducted the same year that George Harrison was. And so the jam session at the end of the induction, they did "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." Sick. And if you have any doubt that Prince is one of the greatest guitarists of all time, and I mean put him up there with Jimi Hendrix, Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, put him up there with any guitarist you think is the best, you go watch that solo from Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You can look it up on YouTube. He tears that solo up, and then in typical Prince fashion, because he was a cocky, and again, I'm trying not to curse here, he throws the guitar up and struts off the stage like, you can't touch that. And every musician up there was like, you're right, we can't touch that. That, to me, was everything you want to know about.
And the eyes on George Harrison's son, just like mesmerized, you know?
Yeah. You know, he truly was an iconic legend in the industry. And I mean, not just us as DJs. I mean, we all play his music. And I guarantee this weekend, his music will be played with extra passion going into everybody's events. But when you look at the rest of the industry, like you said, Harrison had respect for him. So many people clapped in, you know, when they asked him who's the best guitarist, or what does it feel like to be the best guitarist? I don't know, ask Prince. I mean, you know that there was that respect there. And I think, I'm not sure which music awards it was, but he walks out without saying a single word in a bright orange sickle outfit, walks on the stage, stands in front of the microphone, doesn't say a word.
And he can't talk for 5 minutes because of the ovation. Yeah,
exactly.
I said that Dominic and I were driving today. We had to go visit a banquet person, so I picked Dominic up from the office literally 20 minutes after I heard the news, and Dominic's like, "Do you want to go to this appointment?" I'm fine. I'm professional. I can handle it. And so we're driving, and I said that to him. I said to Dom, I think one of the things I'm most proud about with Prince is that whenever he appeared in the last couple of years at an award show, organically, and it wasn't like, let's hear it for Prince. He would walk on stage, and the show would come to a screeching halt for a couple minutes while every artist, every musician in the room, every star would step back and go, oh my God, that's Prince. You know, when you see somebody like Beyonce of her stature be like, oh my God, that's Prince, that's, to me, is the ultimate respect.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely.
We were talking earlier, guys, about some of the artists that Prince has started in the industry. And now,
we start.
Yeah, Michael, I wanted you to actually kind of give us because you've seen some of the next generation of artists that he's been working with out there. So can you give us a little insight of how that worked out there at Paisley Park with that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about Prince, and a lot of this is going to come out now as we learn a little bit more about him, is just how influential he was with the younger generation, and again, challenging them and being that teacher and educating them about music. A wonderful talent, Candace Springs, was out there who she was kind of one of the first ones that had came out there when I started, and just how much that he had interest in her versus how much respect she had for him. It was kind of, they were going both ways with it, and you kind of see that influence in those artists. Candace Springs, FKA Twigs was out there. The funny thing about her is that Prince really enjoyed her music, but she only had heard a couple, Prince songs over in the UK, but she was still like very excited to go out to Prince's studio, be out there. Alabama Shakes was out there just recently, who played out there for Prince.
Did you see Judith Hill, Michael?
Yes, Judith Hill. I mean, I had a chance.
I thought her album was last year or the year. I thought that album was one of the best I've heard in the last couple.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
top to bottom,
blown away by just talking with Judith. I was telling her, I said, just how you put together that album and the transitions and how it flows. I said, that's where Prince is trying to take musicians right now, rather than being the single artist. He was trying to take it back to be the album artist, and that's exactly what he was doing with Judith Hill, and it flowed together very well. I mean, Kendrick Lamar was out there. Liana Havas was another one where I was, very impressed with her and meeting her and to see that influence that Prince had in her, where he had her on the album, the Artificial Age album. He had her on there, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. But
this isn't a new thing either. I mean, Prince has done this his entire career. I mean, we all know the time, and he wrote most of their hits and was influential, getting them a record contract and putting them on his tours early on. The Family, Carmen Electra, he nurtured so many different artists, and a lot of it had to do with the fact when he was writing for these artists, he was so prolific, especially back in the 80s. He was writing more music than Warner Brothers would let him put out.
Right.
So the only way that he could get some of the music that he was writing out was to give it to Sheila E., to give it to The Time, and to give it to these other artists, because he was writing, he was writing basically 4 albums of music every year, and Warner Brothers was like, we don't want you to release that much music. So he had to have these protege artists as a release to get this music out.
I'm really curious on how much archive we're going to see in the next couple of years that's going to be released, that the things that never made it out of the vault.
Jeremy, there's always been legend amongst Prince fans of what they call the vault, and how much is in the vault and how much music is actually in the vault. It will be interesting because, I mean, listen, this happens with every artist. Once they pass away, somebody else takes over their estate, and usually that person is a little bit more money motivated than they are artistic motivated. And I mean, we've seen it in the last couple of years with Jimi Hendrix, where some of his stuff has been released that if Hendrix were alive, he might not want out. Maybe he wasn't proud of that music. So, when somebody gets the decision making over Prince's vault and his estate, we might see some of this music. And listen, as a fan, I will devour it. I don't care if Prince ever wanted it out or not. There are songs that are legendary that never saw the light of day that I will, as soon as it's available, I will gobble it up.
Yeah, that's he does still have a sister who is living, and that will be one of the things that will be interesting to see how everything shakes out after the fact, and who really has control of it.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a Michael Jackson situation where the estate was doing horribly and then Michael Jackson passed away and now the estate is doing great. I mean, but from all reports I've seen, Prince was making ends meet. Once those decisions that fall to a sister or whoever it is, I'm sure decisions are going to be made differently than they were when Prince was alive.
Right.
What if we're going to see things change a little bit with, as an example, the digital downloads of Prince's music? Typically, when you would have big news like this, you would go to iTunes and you would have big splashes on iTunes. I went there today and it's like crickets because they have no Prince music on.
Prince has not released his stuff to iTunes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. That'll change.
Most of his stuff right now you can pretty much find on Tidal.
Yeah.
Yep. And
that has to do with Prince. One of the fights that Prince chose to fight was that he wanted the artist to get more money, and he wasn't happy with what iTunes was paying, and he wasn't happy with what some of the other streaming sites were paying. So he was fighting against that. And I give him credit. I give him and Taylor Swift and these other artists credit. People say, hey, these artists make enough money. Why are they squabbling? Listen, it's their work. They should be able to choose the value of it.
Mike, why don't you talk about like that number one moment? If you could explain one moment of, whether it be at a concert or, I remember when I was in the car and I heard this song for the first time. What's that one moment when it comes to Prince that really comes back?
I don't know if I can do one moment. How much longer is the show going to go on?
We get about 28 minutes.
I'll tell you this. One of the greatest moments I remember, I got to see Prince so many times. It's hard to differentiate, but I got to see him once outdoors in Jones Beach. Jones Beach has an outdoor outdoor concert space, and it was a beautiful summer night. And I mentioned Purple Rain earlier. He broke into Purple Rain, and John, you and I have had numerous conversations about religion, and my struggles with my faith. But if there was a religious moment that I've ever had at a concert, that was it. I remember looking up, because again, it was outdoors, and it was a summer night, and I'm looking at the stars in the sky and Prince tearing into Purple Rain. And I just thought, man, this is just so. As far as moments of live concerts, that's probably, for some reason, there was something about that moment that just stands out for me. But I mean, I've had the opportunity to sit front row twice at Prince shows. Kelly and I went to see him in Las Vegas a couple years ago when he was doing his residency. And Kelly pointed out, we had dinner earlier and we were talking about it. She said, we waited forever for that show. We did, but we were right up against the stage. So I've had the chance to sit so close and be within 10 feet of the guy and watch him perform. And he was just a magical performer. But I will say, I'll say this, and I thought about this earlier too. And this is typical of your life. Years ago when I wasn't making any money and I had seats all the way up here and Prince looked like this on stage. And, thankfully the last couple of years I've done better financially so I can afford to get a seat closer. But I don't know that I've had a better time. You know what I mean? Like, I remember a concert that my sister and I went to back in the mid 80s. And we were like second to last row in Radio City Music Hall, and Prince looked like this on stage. But we had a phenomenal time. We danced all night, we sang all night, and Kelly and I have had a phenomenal time sitting next to the stage. But I don't know that they were that much better. I mean, if you're at a show of your favorite artist, whether you're here or here, it's still just an unforgettable night.
How about you, Michael? What's one thing that you'll always remember?
Yeah, the one thing that I will definitely remember, as I've had many experiences. I mean, just even the personal experiences that I have will be moments, but I feel the one moment that I always remember about Prince is that you go to a concert or you go out to Paisley Park, there are so many different races, ages of people out there. I brought my daughter out there at the time, my oldest daughter, and then she started bringing her friends. And I really think that was the connection that Prince really wanted to present to everybody was, especially right now with everything going on in the political world, is we need to love one another. And I really think that's my moment. And, because he said that at a concert he did just early last year, he's like, we need to take care of each other. We need to love each other. We got to stop this hate, and that was my one moment with him, is because I'm like, yeah, he brings everybody together, and there's no words for it.
Michael, I don't know if the shows in at Paisley Park were like this, but one of the things I used to love about going to the Prince concerts is that people actually got dressed up for it. Any other concert I go to, most people don't care less about what they're wearing. Most people are in jeans and a t-shirt. But with the Prince show, especially if you got to sit up, close up front, it was a fashion show too. Like I thought about what I was going to wear, and a lot of times it was purple. But you thought about what you were going to look like at a Prince show, and it's not like he ever said that. It's not like Prince ever said, "Hey, I'm dressed to impress." But there was something about his shows that it kind of raised the level. Like you felt like you were going to a special night.
Same way at Paisley Park.
Yeah,
my wife would be, "Hey, you want to go out to Paisley Park?" She's like, "Oh my gosh, what kind of dress
am I going to wear?" Right. What am I gonna wear? Well, and you know what? As I said, and I'm thinking to myself, it probably had a lot to do with his example, because you never saw Prince in jeans and a t-shirt. You never saw him in a sweatshirt just chilling. Prince always thought about his fashion and thought about how he's going to look. So if you're going to see him live, well, okay, you have, Mike. Okay, I'm sure you got to see him in jeans and sneakers.
I have seen him in a Randy Moss jersey with nice fluffy boots.
All right. So you got to see him at his most casual.
So he was dressed down at that time.
Jeremy, this is continue answering your question. Kelly and I went to see him the Musicology tour in Madison Square Garden, 2004, and that was the first time I sat front row. So I'll never forget it. And at the end of that show, he brought people onto the stage from the audience. So after the show, we went out for a drink, and we went out to a local bar right by Madison Square Garden. We're having a drink, and a woman who had gotten on stage walks into the bar. So now she's like a celebrity because she was on stage. So we get to chat with her at one point, and we were like, "How'd you get up there?" And apparently Prince sent people around the arena. "Oh, why don't you come up on stage?" And it was all looks, like they wanted good-looking women get up. She said that they gathered them behind the stage before they brought them out, and they said, "Okay, you have 3 instructions. Don't talk to him, don't touch him, don't look at him." So now you're sending huge Prince fans on this stage, but you can't even look at the guy. They said, just dance around and act like you're having a good time. And she said at one point he came over and was like playing guitar next to her. And she's like, "I don't know what to do. I don't want to get thrown off stage. So I don't know whether I should look at him. I don't want to do anything." It was very funny.
I think that's
she walked into this bar and she was like a celebrity because she was like, "You were up there with him." It was amazing.
Those are like the same rules for King Jong-il or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that was Prince.
Mike, you talk about that, and that was really kind of my whole feeling too. Is like, okay, when I actually finally get to interact with him, what am I going to do? Because I hear all these stories that, you should, if you look him in the eye, that's it or whatnot. Right. I'm like, what am I going to do? And basically it was hand out. Hey, you got me on the kiss thing. Looked him in the eye. We were good. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I think I'm okay now. So.
I wasn't fortunate enough to actually see him in concert. Being in Sioux Falls, the closest we ever came to Prince was probably Minneapolis, but it was always sold out because that's his home roots. And anytime he would actually perform there, obviously sellout crowd every time, even before you could get on Ticketmaster to get tickets. So I never got to actually see him perform. But with the lighting symposium that happens up here at EV headquarters, EV is actually involved with First Avenue, which is the making of Prince, or Prince making the First Avenue. But anyways, I will never forget sitting in First Avenue and a screen coming down, and all of a sudden Mike Dussault with EV talks about this live recording from Purple Rain, and it's the actual track that's used on the album.
Yeah.
And he starts going into the story of this, and then when you start watching this video, and you see in the video, you see the exit sign that's actually like right there. You're like, oh my gosh, this seems so surreal. And you would get chills just watching this because that was such an important moment for anybody who appreciated Prince, because that was the making of Purple Rain. Mm-hmm. So watching that video on that exact stage where he performed that, I mean, I can't even imagine what it would be to actually see him live like you guys have. So I have to cross that off my bucket list, and not for the right reasons. But
yeah, it's a shame, Jeremy, because anyone who never had a chance to see him live, you missed out, because he was. I know I'm biased, but I think he was the greatest performer ever. I really do.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to see Michael Jackson, so maybe he was up there. But hi, baby. Love you. Have a good night. But yeah, the fact and the difference is, I don't think Michael Jackson played a lot of instruments. So, I mean, Prince could do all that and then pick up the guitar and tear it up, which was amazing.
Yeah.
John, I should thank you because of your shows, I've been out to Minneapolis a number of times for speaking, and those opportunities have given me the chance to. I went to Paisley Park, even though I never got in. I stood on the outside and looked in. I went to his childhood home just to drive by and go, "This is where Prince was raised." And then I also went to First Avenue, and he wasn't playing obviously that night, but just to walk around that club and knowing the music as well as I do, or the movie, I should say, as well as I do, and going, "Oh, that's where this scene was shot," and oh yeah, look over here, this is where this scene was shot. It was a very cool moment to have the opportunity to do. And
speaking of First Avenue, you look at, again, kind of the making of what First Avenue is now. And, they always say, if you're a musical artist, at one point in your career, you've played at First Avenue. And it's really cool seeing everybody who's actually performed there. I mean, from Aerosmith to, no-name bands who have all of a sudden made it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And First Avenue is a really, really incredible place. If you ever get an opportunity.
We have a local bar like that by us, the Stone Pony, which Bruce Springsteen made famous. But there is a list a mile long of artists that have played at Stone Pony, and it's got to be an incredible thing if you're a musician to be on that stage, because that's the stage that so many other iconic artists have stood on, and that's just got to be an amazing thing.
Yeah. John, do you have a moment that kind of brings you back to your Prince moment?
Not as much, unfortunately, because as I was talking with Brian earlier, that his very first release, of course, it was one that we listened to a little bit, and then Purple Rain came out. And when Purple Rain came out, that movie was kind of bastardized around our kind of small town central Minnesota community. So Prince really didn't happen into my world really until I got into the DJ world in the late 80s. So I didn't have a traditional getting into it like a lot of people did. I didn't. I was kind of a little bit later with my and how things went together. So unfortunately, no. I just appreciated a lot of his music and played a lot of his music, especially during those years of doing the bar gigs. I mean, his stuff was a staple, probably four songs a night would get played, and it would, because I played.
Really? That must be a Minneapolis thing, because I think that's one of the things I love about Prince's music. I don't play a lot of any gigs. So is that a Minneapolis thing? Like, what are the 4 songs or the songs that you do at events, John?
I would because I don't like to repeat songs in the course of a week. When I was doing my residency, I would change, and tonight it could be any way. I like Delirious, using that. Let's Get Crazy, Get Off, Erotic City.
Wow. Kiss. I don't think I've ever played Delirious at a gig.
This would be at the bar. At the bar is where.
Is somebody knocking? Is somebody trying to get in? That's not.
I hear that too.
That's my daughter.
Oh, okay.
You let her out.
Let her in or let her out, whatever the case may be. Jesus.
But yeah, it's And as Michael was mentioning, doing his shows at Paisley Park, that's something that Lori and I were really wanting to do, and it just schedule-wise didn't work. Hello.
Who's this?
This is Soraya.
Hi, Soraya.
Hello.
Is that you making all that noise?
Was that you making all that noise? Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Do you have any Prince memories you want to share?
Do you have any Prince memories that you want to share about Prince?
Daddy will tell you all about him when you're older.
When you get a little older, yeah.
Unfortunate. Yeah. She couldn't get out there.
So, John, let's start with Michael. Michael, if there's one song.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go. Yeah, as we get closer to the end here, let's a couple of top songs.
You want to go now? Are we good?
Well, we've got a few minutes yet, but I just want to make sure we hit, because this is something that people were asking earlier today, of the top, if your go-to Prince song. And I think we almost should put it in two phases: your go-to Prince song for your personal fave, and your go-to Prince song for a dance floor.
Because they're two different things.
Yeah, I know, especially with you, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually,
Before we get that, go ahead.
Yeah, before we get into those two, which ones do you guys see as which ones are going to be trending in the next couple of weeks that people are going to come up and request this song? What do you feel it's going to be?
Well, I, for number one, have a bride in June who specifically asked already, and this was before the fact of Purple Rain to be the closer at her wedding. Mm-hmm. But I think trending, I've played Kiss, obviously, that's always one. But Let's Go Crazy, 1999, well, they'll start trending.
Sure.
I think those three and I Want to Be Your Lover will be another one. I Want to Be Your Lover fits in very well nowadays with Sexy Back and Blurred Lines and that BPM and that vibe. So I know tomorrow night I have a wedding, and I know they asked for Kiss, and I'll play that, and I'll probably also play I Want to Be Your Lover because it'll fit into that.
See, I wonder though if Purple Rain, as Michael mentioned, is a closing one. I wonder if we're going to have that quite a bit, because at the end of the newscast tonight, both of the newscasts that I watched, the local and the national feed, they ended with the Super Bowl, the halftime show with the Purple Rain, and then it comes in, they do this kind of frozen image, and then the dates, the birth and these years, and that was such a powerful closing shot.
But at a gig, are you going to play that as a slow song?
I think as an ending, as a closer,
9-minute ender. That's a pretty long ender.
Yeah, but I think that if people are hearing it so much now, and it's going to become part of the lexicon for the next month and a half, this could be something that people are just wanting to.
Piano Man is a long ender too.
Yeah.
And it might even be, have a great night, and then all of a sudden, here comes Purple Rain as they walk out. It's that. Thanks, have a great night.
Definitely could be. Definitely could be.
Okay, so let's look, John, your question again to kind of end it out here.
Yeah, yep. We'll go and kind of, if you're going to play with one song for a dance floor favorite and then a personal favorite. So that's
Michael.
Personal favorite is a deep cut. It's called Days of Wild, because that introduced. Well, I started going out to Paisley Park in '95. And when I walked into the small room, there was Prince on the guitar, on the bass guitar, doing Days of Wild, and that's been my ever since then. That was my first experience, Days of Wild.
I did my top 100, Michael, and that's number 6 on my list. Days of Wild is an incredible, and that is a deep track. Did he ever put that on? What did he put that on? Crystal Ball?
Crystal Ball.
He released? Yeah.
Yes.
And some other bootlegs.
And only as a live version. It never was released as just a single version. And I know he had kind of redid it a little bit recently, and I was really pushing for him to do a re-release of it. But
Prince found religion about 20 years ago, and he eliminated a lot of the songs from his live shows because a lot of his songs were, you can't just bleep a word or two out. A lot of his songs were pretty, full of curse words. And when he found religion, he stopped playing. And I think a song like Days of Wild was one of them, because you can't do that song without 4-letter words. So I think that was one that he stopped doing. And Get Off, which is my number one, is kind of falls into the same thing. Not really curse words in that, but it's a pretty salacious song about a one-night stand. And that to me is quintessential Prince. It's funky, and it's dirty, and it's funny. There's some, if you listen to the lyrics, it's actually comical. And that to me is the ultimate Prince song. Yep. You give me the extended mix of that, which I think is about 8.5 minutes long, and I'm in heaven.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
So I'm going to have to, since Mike mentioned Get Off as being one of his top songs, and actually I want to hear the other. We've talked 2 of your top 10. I want to hear your top 10. Do you have that handy, Mike?
I do.
Okay, I want to hear that. Let's jump to that. But I want to mention one that I like before you guys is I still have this appreciation for it, and I know this kind of for Raspberry Beret.
Did you see my sister's comment today?
No, I did not. You had so many comments going, and I was trying to do that, and then with what we were getting ready for tonight. So, what did you?
My sister called me. My sister is a Prince fan, not as big of a Prince fan as I am, but we've gone to see him a couple times, and she knew I was really down, and she called, and I was almost near tears, and then she posted on Facebook, and she reminded me that that's the song that she apparently lost her virginity to. It's not something you ever want to know about your sister. So, and that did it brought me out of my funk a little bit.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Congratulations, honey.
But it's a great song. I mean, if you're gonna lose your virginity to any song, that's a pretty good. You know? Sorry, Robin. I hope you're not still up.
No. So yeah, that was Get Off is the one that was always when I was playing in the bar. That was my either Friday or Saturday night. It was my key one later in the night because, as you say, it had such a just all around a good song, especially in a bar club situation. Yeah. Just a fabulous song.
Definitely.
Okay, Mr. Breck, did you have a song that stood out for you?
Yeah, it's just kind of like when I was, I apologize, but I'm still, not to rub this in, but I'm still younger. So when 7 came out, younger, you guys are still young. I mean, you're young at heart. But when I was in high school or middle school, I can't remember what it was.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, no. The song 7 came out. And I love 7 because I love how he comes in with such a strong a cappella. Nothing to back him up except his vocals. And when he comes in with that, and then all of a sudden you get that cymbal crash or the tambourine crash, whatever it is. It's so powerful how the song just builds, and then it has that nice fun, I can dance to this feel. So to me, that was always one of my favorites. It also was kind of when P Control kind of hit the mark as well, and it's a fun dance song, and believe it or not, we get a lot of requests for that.
For sure.
We usually save that for a little bit later in the night, but
yeah. Generally, after the first dance, we want to set the tone and make sure that everybody knows who's in charge.
I have to tell Grandma, just wait, it's coming. It'll make it.
Great.
But no, like I said, I wish I had as much appreciation as Michael and Mike. I mean, you guys have, again, you really understood him as an artist, and again, I didn't get to experience that, and that's one thing. Like I said, bucket list, I would have loved to have seen him. I don't get to experience all the B-sides like you guys do and appreciate it as much as you guys do, but I think with all of the situation that's happened, I think you're going to get a lot of people that are going to start listening to full discs as opposed to just the hits. And they're going to start appreciation more of what he did and what he was.
Right.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left, and then what's going to end up happening for those of you watching, we're going to shut the feeds off because we're going to be switching to Brian Red's going to be coming on, and he'll be coming on at 9 o'clock, but we're going to shut the stream down. Then there will be doing a new Facebook live stream and a new YouTube stream. But it's going to be basically Brian Red for probably the next 2 hours is going to be sharing and playing music and such, which means that when that live show is over on YouTube, it's going to get banned immediately. That sucker is going to be gone so fast. The Facebook one will stay there, but the YouTube one won't. So if you guys, what you'll end up having to do is either go to our Facebook page and watch for the link to pop up there, and then you'll be able to jump in with Brian and I. I'll get him started, and then I'm going to go tuck my kids into bed while Brian plays in music. So
is he taking requests?
He probably will because he wants to do, he's been itching to do a radio type show, and we decided that today we're going to do music on our shows. So all right, that's what we're going to go to. But let's wrap things up. Let's go through that top 10 list if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us, Mike.
The moment everybody's been waiting for.
As will become very obvious, my favorite music of Prince is his funky stuff. It's his 100 to 105 BPM, really hardcore, dirty funk stuff. So, and that kind of stands out in my list. My top 10 is Electric Chair from the Batman soundtrack. Mm-hmm. That's 10. Now, which is a really funky song off the Gold Experience. Starts out with him just shouting now, and it just goes into a really funky beat. One of the saddest songs, and God of all days, Sometimes It Snows in April, which is a slow song that he wrote off of the Parade album about a friend dying, and it's very obviously poignant today. 7, Jeremy, that's 7th on my list. Great song. I agree. I love the acapella beginning and the cool beat. Michael, as I said, number 6 is Days of Wild. Great song. Money Don't Matter Tonight, which is off of the, is that the Symbol album? Money don't matter tonight.
No, Diamonds and Pearls.
Diamonds and Pearls, right. Great song. And that fantastic line, he talks about the child dying, and he says, and you think you got it bad. Great song. Bat Dance, number 4. Face Down, number 3, and this was the one that got me choked up today because he talks about let them bury you face down so they can kiss your ass, and I wonder if they're gonna bury Prince face down. I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man, which is really one of his hardest rocking songs. The version off of Sign of the Times, where he goes on to the great guitar solo in the second half of that song, very Jimi Hendrix-esque kind of guitar solo. And then my number 1 is Get Off. So that's my top 10, John.
Cool.
So if Brian wants to play any of those 10 songs, I would be happy.
Yeah, I'm sure he will, because I'm thinking once we shut down the live stream from earlier this afternoon, he's been compiling a list. And I don't know if you guys saw the picture he put up. He has a bunch of the Prince albums, and he's got this, I don't know, probably 60 different covers, because he's got singles and different things. Goodness.
You know what I broke out earlier? I saved when he was on he was on Rolling Stone a couple times, and this was from 2004. This has got to be the greatest issue ever, because they did an article on Howard Stern, and Prince was the cover. So for me, I mean, come on, this is the greatest
exactly
issue of
two of you
Rolling Stone ever. Talk about 2 of my icons right there.
Oh, great stuff, gentlemen. Thank you very much for sharing, telling the story. What do you got behind you, and Michael? Yeah, show us what you got back there. We got to cut.
Can I send you out, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got it all cued and ready to go. I love it.
There we go. Welcome.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching tonight. We'll be coming back in just a few minutes with the show, with the music show tonight. Mike, Michael, Jeremy, guys, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Watch the Facebook page in just a few minutes. The new links will be up, and we'll catch you in just a couple.
Sounds great.
Have a good night.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.